Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Um, we like to keep these sessions brief, and by brief I mean under 30 minutes if we can help it. So the only way we can do that is by getting started on time. So we might have one or two other people join us. If that's the case, they can just jump in. If you have any questions, please feel free, ask away. We are recording this session, so if you wanted to save your questions until the end after we can turn the recording off, that's fine as well. But we are recording this session. And yeah, I will go ahead and get started. So my name is Matt Shelley. I'm here in the Trible Library. I'm the digital instructional librarian. And we're doing a series of what we're calling refresher sessions this summer. So this is the 5th session of our series. This one is about Journal Finder. And like I said before, they're intended to just be brief refresher sessions, going over a topic that maybe you know something about, maybe it's been a while since you've used a service or a resource, or maybe it's an introduction, but it's just a kind of a quick rundown. So today is Journal Finder, and just a brief few tidbits about Journal Finder. It's a service of W.T. Cox Information Services. So a small business, I don't know how many other services they provide. I think it's looks like a regional information services company. They're based in North Carolina. And they provide us with the Journal Finder service. It originated at UNC Greensboro right about 2001. They developed it as a way to kind of organize all of the journals that were coming online in the early 2000s. It's very, then as it is now, it was kind of difficult to navigate all of the options, and people were finding it difficult to access the different journals. So Journal Finder is a tool that was developed, and we'll learn a little bit more about why we need Journal Finder. So what does Journal Finder do? Well, we subscribe to over 300 different databases here at CNU, and each database has a number of academic journals or newspapers or magazines, other publications. And when you have 300 different databases, those number of journals start to add up, and you get tens of thousands of journals, which is what we have. And it can be hard to navigate. And the databases, they don't necessarily communicate with each other. They're produced by different vendors. They don't have the kind of incentive to communicate with each other. And sometimes when you're searching in one database, there's an article that you'd like to find, it's not there, but it could be at a different database that we also subscribe to. And you may never know that if it wasn't for Journal Finder. So that's where Journal Finder comes in handy. It kind of serves as the bridge between the databases, is the way I like to think about it. So how do you use Journal Finder? There's two ways. You can go directly to the Journal Finder service and just start searching, and you would search by the journal title. So a direct search. Or when you're already in one of our databases and you're searching around and you come across an article that's not available in the database where you are at that moment, Journal Finder will link you out to a different database. So there's direct searching, and then there's linking from within a database. Those are the two different ways. So here's a screenshot, just one example journal that we have, the American Economic Review. And this is what it looks like when you start to use Journal Finder. You type in the name of the journal, and you're given different options. So we'll talk about this in a second, but it kind of the overarching theme is that Journal Finder requires a little bit of extra legwork. Not much, and especially once you get accustomed to it, it's very easy to use. But in the beginning, you have options that can be confusing. So just know that. But once you get the hang of it, it's really a good tool to use. So the main thing here that we'll take away is you have different sources, so different databases, and they have different date ranges. So just to add that extra layer of confusion, you have it's the same journal, it's offered in different databases, and then even within those databases, it has different time frames of which you can view the journal. So here's a kind of a graphic representation of that. For our one journal, ranging from 1911, when we have our first access, up until the current time, 2021, you see all of the different options and you see kind of the range of time. So it really depends on what date the journal and then what date the article was published within that journal. That can make make your choice of which source you want to use. So let's kind of dig in, and hopefully this will make more sense as we start to use it. So Journal Finder, we can find it on the library's website, cnu.edu/library. From there, we'd have to do resources and services, and we're taken to this page. So where we can actually start to use some of our resources. Journal Finder is the third tab that we have here, kind of in the center of the screen. And this is where our first method for using Journal Finder, direct search. You would just type in the name of the journal. So if you know the title of the journal that you're looking for, or it could be a newspaper or a magazine, we have those as well, and we'll take a look at those in a second. But the name of a journal, you type it in, and you're given options for that journal if we have it. So let's do American Economic Review. Just type in the title, hit go, and now we have our title search results. So in this case, we have two options that could apply to our search. American Economic Review, that looks like the likely option, but then there's also the Latin American Economic Review. So sometimes you'll have multiple title search results, and you just kind of have to sift through and figure out which one it is that you're actually looking for. There's been, throughout the history of journals, there's been a number of shared titles. So sometimes you have more than one journal with the same title. But we want the top option, number one, American Economic Review. And then we have additional options on top of that. So online, print, delivery, elsewhere. We're just ignore delivery and elsewhere. They're not going to apply here. Those services can come into play in other places. We're just ignore that for our purposes. Print, you're largely going to ignore that as well. Most of our journals do not have a print component. This one does. So this means we actually have some print copies of this journal in the library, depending on when we started subscribing to it. But we actually have a subscription to the print. It may not be current. It may be some issues from the past, but this is something that you'll rarely see. But in this case, we do have print option. But what we really want is the online option. So the laptop icon here, the computer icon, I'll click on that. This is the online access for this journal. And these are our 7 different sources. So sources, these are different databases. Sometimes it's the same company. So there's 2 EBSCO options. There's 3 ProQuest options. Just again, to add more confusion. But I will check out, so it depends on what we're looking for. So if we were looking for an article from the beginning of the run of this journal, so if we wanted a 1911 article, we have 2 options that go back to 1911. If we wanted something that came out just a month ago, we have one option where it says current. That's the only one within the past 2 or 3 years that's offering anything within the past 2 or 3 years. And when I say offering anything, I'm thinking full text. So what we're looking for is full text articles. That's our goal. So that's the whole point of this exercise, is to find full text. So I'll do the third option, EBSCO Econ Lit with full text, because that has current access. I'll click on that one. I'll click on the journal title. It's a link. I have 7 different links here that would link me to the different sources. This one's going to Econ Lit. And this is the landing page. So now we've left Journal Finder, and now we're in the database. So Journal Finder just serves as the bridge to the databases. So if I wanted to look at the 2021 issues, I could do that. Just have the drop down here, click on 2021, and let's say January 2021. I have the 11 articles that were published in January 2021. I can scroll through, I can click on the title, and I can read the articles. So using Journal Finder, I need to know the name. In this case, for this method, I need to know the name of the journal. And then presumably I would need to know the date if I'm looking for a specific article. If I just wanted to browse, I could do that as well. But if I'm looking for a specific article, I need to know when that article was published. So this was a January 2021 article. and I have the PDF full text here on the left, so I could click on that and I could read the entire article. Okay, we have the question, and to upload this to Scholar for my students. You could do a couple different ways. So you could download the PDF, and then you have the PDF, and you could use that and do what you want with the PDF. So save it. You could upload it to Scholar, and they could view the PDF. What I would recommend, and what I would beg of you to do, is if you can find a way. Different databases have different options. But if you can find a way to find a link to the article, the benefit of that is it would probably be easier to have the PDF just in Scholar, or it would not be difficult to do that at all. But if you give them the link, in this case, on the right-hand side, we have permalink. You could share that link. The benefit of that is to the library. We benefit because now we see the usage. So when a student clicks that link, they come to the library database, and they read the article through the database, and then we know that that database is getting used. Once you download the PDF, we don't know what happens to that document. So there's multiple ways to do it, and there's no right or wrong way, but this is the way that will help us collect our stats, and we know which journals and which databases are getting used. So whatever works best. If you find that the links aren't working, maybe you go with the PDF option. But oftentimes you'll see either link, or in this case, permalink. So this shouldn't change. It's a long link, not very intuitive, but it won't change. That's the benefit of that. A great question. So you found the article and you want to post it in Scholar. That's how you would do it. Okay, I'm going to back up. Let's go back to our journal finder. So we have additional options, and if we wanted to look at an article that's 100 years old, we have those two options where we could look at this journal from 1911 onward. Sometimes Journal Finder takes a little bit of time to load. I'm going to do a new search just to show you. It also works for New York Times. So various newspapers. There's tens of thousands of periodicals, so journals, newspapers, magazines that are in Journal Finder. So if you have something that you're looking for, just give it a try. But in this case, we have multiple options. You would just have to kind of scan and see which one looks most pertinent to what you're looking for. It's number 4 for us, New York Times. We don't want the magazine. We don't want the book review. We want the New York Times. That's number 4. Click on the laptop icon, and now you can see kind of the date range for the New York Times. So if you wanted to view older articles, I'll click on the top one. It may take a second to load. And see, we're at a different database, so it looks different. This is ProQuest, but it works to a similar manner where we would choose our year, choose a month, and then choose the day. Or, in addition to that, we could actually just search. So search within this publication. We're just searching within this one New York Times database, not all the other databases with all the other publications. We're just searching here. Once I found it, if I wanted to say this first article is one that I wanted to read, an Atlantic City hotel fire, I click on it and I have the full text of the article as it appeared back in 1922. So that's not Journal Finder doing. Journal Finder is not doing that part of the work. This is the database doing that. But remembering Journal Finder linked us to the database. So if you can't remember, and oftentimes I can't remember, New York Times is available in a number of different databases, but you can't always remember, okay, what is the date range for the New York Times? Come through Journal Finder and you can see, okay, if I wanted 1857, that would be ProQuest historical newspapers. If I wanted something current, it would have to be one of these 3 bottom options. So Journal Finder will point you in the right direction. And not everything is as widely known as the New York Times. So when you have those kind of more obscure publications that you're looking for, Journal Finder is a good place to start. And maybe slightly more obscure than the New York Times is the Daily Press. That's on here as well. So there's a few different daily presses. Ours is the first one. And you can see basically we have coverage going back into 1989 for the Daily Press. So it just all depends on the publication. It works for magazines as well, Time Magazine or whatever it is that you're looking for. you can search Journal Finder for that as well. Okay, so that's direct searching. That's we know what we're looking for. We come to Journal Finder, we put in the title, we have to spell it correctly. We put in the title and we see what we have for that title. The flip side of that is when you're in the databases, we're going to come back this time, and now we're going to go to Scholarly Articles, and we're going to come at Journal Finder from a database. So I'm going to select a database. I'm going to do ProQuest Online. It's kind of a broad, popular database. And I'm going to open that up. And I'm just going to do a basic search. In this case, Great Depression. Search. We have our 3 million results or thereabout. I'm going to narrow it down to scholarly journals, which we're still going to have plenty of results. And this is our first page of Great Depression scholarly journal results. So what you'll see as you're scrolling through, if you use the databases on a regular basis, you kind of can just see a few things that pop out. So this first article, I see the title, the author, the name of the journal, and then something that's really pertinent to our purposes, full text PDF. So this first article, before I even click on the title and view some more information, I see that it's in this database and it's full text. So we're remembering that our 300 plus databases, they give us different coverage for different journals, and we get kind of this mix match of article. Some databases have access to our journal and a certain time period, and if the article that you're looking for is from that journal but not from that time period, it may not show up. So when everything lines up in your original database that you're searching, it works out really well. You can just click on the article, you read the full text, and you have the entire article. That's kind of the best case scenario. When that doesn't work, that's when Journal Finder comes into play. So I tell students all the time, this will take you from being a basic searcher to a more advanced searcher, knowing how to use Journal Finder. Because if you go to the first database and you don't find it there at the first database, and you kind of hit a dead end, if you were to just give up, you're missing out on many other options that you could potentially try and find that article. And with Journal Finder, it's only a few clicks away. So you really want to take advantage. So let's look at some examples of that. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of our results page. And I'm going to look at number 20, from Great Depression to Great Credit Crisis. So I'm going to imagine that this is an article that's interesting for my research. And it's showing up in this database because the database has access to the journal. Economic Policy is the name of the journal. But for whatever reason, we don't have the full text. So most likely it's because they don't have the date when the article was published is not available here in the database. Even though they have the journal, they don't have the entire run of the journal, and this date is missing in this database. So in this case, it's April 2010. But full text, the tab should be right here. One of these tabs should say full text. Instead, they're non-existent, and we don't have full text. We have the abstract. We have some terms for the article. We have the volume, the issue number. That's all good information, but we don't actually have the text of the article. So what you would do is, this is where now Journal Finder comes into play. In this case, the link is on the right-hand side of the screen. Journal Finder at CNU. Might just take a second to load, but it's going to attempt to bridge us to a different database where the article is available. Okay, so we're looking for Economic Policy. That's the name of the journal. We have to think about it a little bit. We know which of these options looks like the best. I think it's number 2. And it's not always clear cut. Sometimes you have to just check around a little bit to see which one matches with the journal that you're looking for. But number 2 looks like the best option. So I'll click on the online icon. And what I'm seeing here is I have 5 different sources, 5 different databases that have access to Economic Policy. I can see the date ranges over here on the right-hand side. And I'm looking for a 2010 article. And in this case, each of the article, these are our article titles. Now these have been turned into links as well. So what this is telling me, this is Journal Finder telling me that they have detected that this article should be in actually any of these 5 databases. And all I would have to do is click on the title, which serves as a link. This one is from the Oxford University Press Journals, completely different database from where we started. Takes another second to load. But now I'm at a different database. We left ProQuest, and Journal Finder bridged us to a new database where now we have the full text of the article. So I can scroll down and I can read the entire article. So if you think about it, if you're at the first database is a dead end without the full text, you could give up. You would not have the article. But with a few Journal Finder clicks, here it is, the full text. So it's just another database that we pay for, we subscribe to, but it just wasn't there where we were looking for in the original place. So Journal Finder bridged us to the new database. Very handy tool. Okay, so let's take a look at some other scenarios that you may see when you're using Journal Finder. So that's when everything works out, that's what Journal Finder looks like. There will be some other times where maybe you hit a dead end. So let's take a look at some of those. So number 13, from Great Depression to Great Recession. I click on the title. The full text isn't here. That's okay, we're used to that by now. We're going to do Journal Finder. We're looking for this article. The International Review of Economics and Finance is the name of the journal. Journal Finder at CNU. Let's see what we come up with. So this time we have one hit. So not any choices to be made here, but we click on online. And so we have the International Review of Economics and Finance, but we're looking for a 2011 article. And it makes sense now that these aren't showing up as links as they did before because the coverage ends in 2001. So we're missing our window here by 10 years. So this is the case. This is what happens when you come across a journal that we have in our databases, but we don't have the correct time frame that you're looking for. This is when you would take the next step. You would take this to interlibrary loan. You would put this request in because now you've gone through the steps and you're seeing that we don't have this article in any of our databases. Journal Finder is confirming that for us. Back to our results. Take a look at the next one, Conan Fisher. Again, full text isn't here, so we know to go to Journal Finder. And in this case, we're looking for European History Quarterly. I did not find any titles that match your search. That's the message that Journal Finder gives us. So this is what you'll see if we don't have that journal anywhere for any time period in any of our databases. You'll get this message. And I'm just showing you these just so don't worry. If you see this message, it's okay. This is when you would take it to interlibrary loan. You could still request our article through interlibrary loan, and we would do our best to track it down for you. One final scenario, our fourth result here, 3 views from 50 years later. So this is another example. This will happen from time to time. You'll want to know what to do in this case. But an article looks like maybe it's a book review. We want to read it, but we don't have the full text. Okay, so we go to Journal Finder. This is Reviews in American History from 1989. Journal Finder at CNU. Reviews in American History, looks good. Click on online. Okay, we have one source that matches our search, 1973 through 2015, so 1989 falls squarely in there. And they turn the article title turned into a link. So that's promising. We click on it and they bring us to JSTOR, but we're given an error message. Your inbound link did not have an exact match in our database. This is going to happen as well. So we have our 2 results here, 2013, 1975. Those aren't the ones we're looking for. That's not 1989. So the only way that I can explain this is that everything is automated, and sometimes you just get a bad link. And it brings you here, and everything should have worked, but it didn't. And that's okay. So the way that you would fix this is, let's go back. We know that JSTOR should work. JSTOR has the time period that we're looking for. So instead of clicking on the article title, let's click on the link under the journal title heading. So still for JSTOR, it's the second link, Reviews in American History. Click on that instead. So basically we're kind of zooming out a little bit. We're looking at the entire journal as it's available on JSTOR. And we know, okay, now we're given the different decades. So we can go to the 1980s. And I believe it was volume 17, issue 1 from 1989, so March 1989. That's this one right here. And the article title was 3 Views. So if we scroll down far enough, we would just scroll. These are the articles that were published in March 1989. Eventually, we get to 3 Views from 50 years later. And now we have the full text article. Good detective work. Thank you. So I just basically want to show you this is what happens. Even Journal Finder, we're using Journal Finder. Sometimes you get a bad link. If you think that we still should have it, you can kind of backtrack a little bit. And usually there's another way to find it through Journal Finder. So we saw the case, sometimes the journal is just not available. There's nothing you could do to find it. That's okay. But then there's a few times where you get a bad link and you can just, a few extra clicks, you can find the article. And if this is the article, if you need this review for your research, it's well worth just a few extra clicks. Okay. I am going to pause there. We're at close to our 30-minute mark. Are there any questions?
No, this is great. Thank you so much. I can't wait to get started.